Hey, everybody. Happy Wednesday. And I'm back for another video. This was one that I don't know, I didn't for some reason think that I would ever have to do. And I started doing some research for a blog I was writing, and I discovered a whole bunch of shocking information about the pay gap that still exists between men and women dentists, even when taking into account things like how many hours you work and all of that good stuff. And so I was writing a blog article about this, and I thought, oh, I should share this information with you because it surprised me. So today we're going to talk about why women dentists earn less than men dentists and some ways that you could potentially close the gap. So imagine this. You and a male classmate graduate the same year, same degree, same license, same number of hours worked. Fast forward a few years, and he's making $51,000 more than you every single year. It's not a fluke. That's what's happening to women dentists all over the country. Now, this data comes from the United States. Many of you know that I'm in Canada, but that usually is a pretty fair assumption of what's happening in Canada as well. So today I'm going to try to break down a little bit about what I found out about why this pay gap exists, but then more importantly, what you can do to try to close it. So here's the raw truth. Now, of course, these numbers are not exact. The average male dentist, according to many of the sources that are out there, earns $211,000 a year. I know people who earn less than that and people who earn way more than that, but let's just say that's the average. The average female dentist, about $160,000. That's a $51,000 a year gap every single year. Over 30 years, that's $1.5 million left on the table. Now, just so you know, there has definitely been improvement over the last few decades. Back in 1990, which really isn't that long ago, by the way, men in dentistry earned nearly double what women did. And today, the gap is much narrower, but it's still at about 22%. And it's probably not going to close all on its own. So where is the gap coming from? Number one, practice ownership. There are far fewer women who own their practices than men. And we know that ownership can lead to 20 to 40% higher income. Right now, though, women are about 20% less likely to be owners. Number two, hours and career breaks. Yes, the average is that women work fewer hours than men or take more leave for family reasons. But even when we adjust wages for time off, there's still a gap. Three, specialty choices. Women are more likely to specialize in areas like pediatric dentistry, which, while amazing and very important, can sometimes pay less than, let's say, an oral surgeon as a specialist, where there are not very many women. And number four, negotiation differences. Men are more likely to negotiate starting salaries that are higher and ask for raises more often. Women will often prioritize flexibility or assume that they'll just be recognized over time. Meanwhile, those early differences compound really fast. And here's the most frustrating part. Even women who own their practices, who work full-time, and who produce at very high levels, still often earn less. Crazy, huh? So this isn't just about individual choices. It's about some systemic patterns that we have the power to change. So we're going to dive a little bit deeper into these things. This gap isn't just a number on paper, because it affects your ability to save for retirement, to invest in your business, to pay off debt, to build generational wealth, to create time freedom. And every year that this gap stays open is a year where you don't get that money back. So there are some things you can do. Here are 5 things that I came up with that you could start doing right now to reclaim some of that income and get some of your power back. Number 1, of course, you could own your practice if you don't. Now, I know that there are a million things that go into this decision, but if you've been thinking about buying or starting a practice, maybe if you do that, you will make more money. Again, I know there are many factors that play into this, but we do know that ownership consistently leads to higher income and more autonomy. Even though women owners still earn just a little bit less than men, the income jump that you get from ownership could be major compared to being an associate in many instances. And I get that it's not 100% of them. Number two, could negotiate with confidence. So whether you are applying for a job as an associate, or maybe you are already in a job where you are an associate, you can advocate for yourself. Do your research, know your value, track your production, and practice your pitch. It's not about being aggressive, it's about being prepared. Women very often do not ask for what they feel they actually deserve. And again, there are many layers to this and it can be very deep, but it would be one way to make more money. Number three, track what matters. Start collecting your own data. Look at things like your production, your case acceptance, efficiency, how many new patients you're seeing. The KPIs that you can track that will tell you exactly how you're doing will give you leverage. This can be if you're an associate or a practice owner, because they can prove your impact. Let's say you start looking at your numbers and you realize that, I don't know, part of a system is broken. Maybe something at the phones, something in your financial setup, something isn't going the way you expect or isn't tracking in the way that you expect it to. You can then make changes to make that better, meaning maybe you are not, or your practice is not making as much as it should be because there is something that's not working the way that it could. One of the biggest things I see is that women practice owners, especially who set their own fees, undercharge. And I think that's probably the biggest reason why male owners and female owners, with all other things taken into account, women practice owners still make less because we often struggle to charge what we're actually worth. Okay, number four, build a strong network. Connect with other women in dentistry. That's why platforms like this exist, because I'm trying to facilitate that. Share salary ranges, talk numbers. The more we normalize conversations about all of this stuff, the harder it becomes for inequality to hide. And number five, ask for transparency. If you are an employee in your current or your future workplace, ask about how compensation is determined, when and how raises are given and evaluated, and whether data is reviewed across gender or role. The more transparency there is, the more accountability is also there. So if you own a practice and you either have associates or you plan on having associates, this is where you actually have an opportunity to really lead in this department. Standardize your pay models. Track compensation by role and gender if you have both male and female dentists working for you. Offer flexible schedules without penalty if you can. Sponsor leadership development for the women on your team. When you do this, you're not just creating a more fair workplace, but you're setting a new standard for our profession. So, as much as I did not believe this to be true, the pay gap is real. It's persistent and it's expensive, but it's not inevitable. And the more you understand the system and then take some intentional action, the more power that you actually reclaim. So if you want to know a little bit more about this, where my sources came from, some of the research that I did, I wrote a blog about this exact thing, women earning less than men in dentistry. And you can find it on my website for dentaljourneysuccess.com. And it's got some numbers and a little bit of context in there. And it goes down in a little more details of some things you can start doing right away if you feel, especially if you're a woman who's an associate in a practice, that you could or should be making more than you do currently. You are not the problem, but you are the solution. Whether it's owning your worth, negotiating without apology, or simply lifting up all of the women around you. Every single move you make matters. So I guess it's up to us. We can close the gap. We can raise the bar. And then we can create a future where your income matches your impact, and there is no difference across genders in this profession. I think we can do it. I have faith in that. I'll see you guys next week. Bye-bye.